So today we'll be taking a look at the invitation for bid, like IFB. It's a sample, bid. It's actually a bid developed for some government project. But then, like, I've just taken a sample, but not the actual one. Like, some of the concepts gets changed or something. It's not a final thing, but then it's for education purpose. Let's take a look at the invitation for bid, like IFB. So it's from Corporation of Chennai and Zone X, which is a sample thing. So Chennai city, and then here we'll have to write pin code, but then like for the sample document, we have got something called city and TNUD, which is Tamil Nadu Urban Development Project. For that, they want bidding. They invite bidding. So bidding, the person is the um, agency is Government of India or Tamil Nadu, whatever might be. So they want to have a project, or they have a project which they require people or contractor to execute that, right? So that's the thing. And very important thing is national competitive bidding. So it's within India, so it requires bidding from contractors or eligible contractors who reside in India, or if they are from other country, they have to register with Government of India or something like that to take up this particular project. And the date and bid number, right? Say the first and foremost paragraph will give you like what is this bidding is all about or something like that. Yeah. So it just say Government of India has received a credit, which is amount from International Development Association, or you can even call as a loan from the International Bank for Reconstruction, right? For doing the Tamil Nadu Urban Development Project or something like that, right? And they have got IBRD. IBRD is International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. So they have a guidelines for procurement. And very important is that, from eligible source countries, like as defined in this thing, right? And the bidders from India should have registered with the Government of Tamil Nadu or other state government or Government of India or state or central government undertakings. So they should be registered and with this particular government agencies, right? And bidders are advised to note the minimum qualification criteria is there for the award of contract, right? So we'll talk about that a little later, but just we'll just quickly run through it. It's quite a big document. So I'll focus primarily on the important concepts or the thing that you should know as the civil engineering students, right? So the executive engineer, again, have requested on behalf of Commissioner Corporation of Chennai for invites bidding, right? So the bidder may submit his bid for any or all of the following works. Different work packages, right? So a bidder can take point number 3 or point number 4, point number 5, or all the three, right? So let's take a look at that. So this is a table, package number, as package number, and then name of the work, appropriate value of the work. This is quoted by the contractor. So all blank. They only have this table like bid security and cost of document and the period of completion. Period of completion is 5 months. Right? So all the and then they've got all the packages, work packages like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and different things are there. It's by the contractor, and the bid value is 16.20 lakhs, and 10% of it, like 16,200, is a bid security, right? And then cost of this document, bid document, is 2192, and they have got the seal, the signature, and so on, right? And the first and foremost important thing is the instructions to bidders. So this is where ITB, they call instructions to bidders. This is what we generally need to understand or take a look at uh, the components of these in detail, right? Let me run through that. Like, so section 1. So it's a very important thing. So kindly pay attention to this. Like, instructions to bidders. It has got section A to section F, right? So section F. In that, we have got so many things. A is general, it talks about the scope of bid, the source of funding, and eligible bidders, and qualification of bidders, and one bid per bidder, and so on. Right? So the cost of bidding and site visit and so on. So it's very general, generic perspective regarding the bidding. And section B is about big documents. It's a very important section in which the content of bidding document. So the bid document is one which we submit to get the contract, right? So that document, what should that contain? And classification of bidding documents, there should be, documents for costing, evaluation, and bid security and so on. Like we talk about that when we go to the classification document and amendments of bidding document. So in case of any changes, permissible changes, you have to give something called an amendment. That's called bidding documents. And C is the preparation of bids. We talk about language bid, documents comprising the bid, bid prices, currencies of bid and payment, bid validity, bid security, an alternative proposal by bidders, and format and sending of the data. So this is a pretty much a very important thing. It talks about preparation of bid in detail. And it's a continuation of that will be the submission of bid. We talk about open tender, closed tender, right? So sealing and marking of bids and deadlines for submission of bids and late bids and modification and withdrawal of bids. All this comes under submission of bids. Right. Then bid opening and evaluation, like how they evaluate the bids or something like that. So that also should be provided in the invitation to bid. So that's only people understand like how the evaluation criteria, and based on that they can prepare the bid document. Like the confidentiality, then classification of bids and examination of bids. And responsiveness is very important term that you should know. We'll talk about that when we talk about bid opening and evaluation. Then correction of errors, like in case contractor unknowingly made a mistake, and if the evaluator finds out, they have a chance to rectify that by requesting the bidders to look into it and change that. They cannot summarily reject that because it's a creating a bid document itself is taking a lot of time, painstaking time and effort. So sometimes mistakes are inevitable, but it should not be deteriorating or it should not be detrimental to the project. Like the cost, they want to, if the estimated cost is only 20 lakhs, they cannot quote for 30 lakhs or 40 lakhs. That is be enormous, and that will be summarily rejected. But if it is 22 lakhs, they can probably the employer or the person who invites it can request the contractor to adjust it so that it be within the norms or something like that. Right. So those things are all corrections of errors, and then currency for bidding evaluation and evaluation and comparison of bids and all those things. Like we'll be talking about bid opening and evaluation. And here you can see that preference for domestic bidders. Reason is that this is a national competitive bidding. Generally, the preference is given to Indian citizens, even though foreign companies are eligible to participate. But say, for example, if you give even your national competitive bidding to all foreign country companies, then our socio-economic issue can happen. Our contractor will not get any project at all. So that is why they have class called preference for domestic bidders or something. Or sometimes if you are very familiar with a particular region and you have constructed a lot of projects in that particular region, then you know what exactly the construction what will be the construction nature and what happens when the error comes in. You have a good experience in tackling the errors and something. So instead of giving it to a contractor who have no experience with the construction at that location, better to give the person, even though if a quote is pretty high, or we can ask them to change to nominal, but the person who have got huge experience knows much better, right? So that's why they just give it to our domestic bidder. The domestic bidder, not necessarily our country, but also the regional perspective as well. Then it's very important. The final and foremost important thing is the award of contract, which is the contract contracting, right? So that's a very important term. So far, we talk about all these things, or invitations to bid. But this F section will talk about what happens after the bid gets evaluated, and if you accept the contract or you reject the contract. If you accept, what happens, and if you reject, what happens. If you accept, you have to pay some performance security, and if you reject summarily during the course of evaluation, your bid security is elapsed or taken or forfeited. So those kind of things that will be discussing in section F is called award of contract. While we talk about advance payment and security adjudicators, as I told you, in fact, in the previous lecture, we talked about, arbitration and conciliation. So the contract violations are generally not a criminal proceedings, but they generally not even general civil proceedings, but they will be dealt with arbitrators. Before arbitration, they should have a mutual discussion called conciliation, and then if no consensus yet met during the conciliation process, then they go for arbitration, right? Something like that. Even there isn't any fruitful outcome from the arbitration, they can appeal for the court. So it's not directly to the court, but it has a different step. So those things called adjudicators, or the person will do a mediating job, or conciliators or something like that. Then corrupt or fraudulent practices, no matter they have a very good bid document and bid proposal, but if they are corrupt and they had fraudulent practice, they have done mischiefs or malpractice in the previous projects, and if they are blacklisted, and those things will be very detrimental, even though they have a very good bid proposal. So in that case, their projects are rejected at the court, right? So they are not going to take any further. So those were exemptions. We'll talk about that, in the award of contract. First, this is what we talk about scope of bid. The work that required here is like strengthening and relaying of interior roads in zone of Chennai. Some roads they wanted to strengthen and relay. They have to chip out and then they relay it, something like that, right? An invitation to bid, invitation for bid, and the bidders may submit bids, for any work or all the works detailed in the invitation for bid, right? A successful bidder will expect to complete the work by intended completion date, which is 5 months period, as per this, you know, invitation for bid. And funding, we have seen that earlier. The funding is from Government of India, and they have received the fund from the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, something. So IBRD, right? So they are generally called the bank. You can see that legal term they call here, that the entire term has replaced as the bank. So whatever the bank is referred in the future section, that is referred, right? And TNUD, Tamil Nadu Urban Development Project, and this is for two, and something like that. Right. And also you can see that like loan agreement prohibits the withdrawal from the loan account, which is the loan account, for the purpose of any payment to persons. Like it we cannot directly give as a payment to the person or something like that, or goods or something like that. It can be only taken as the part payment based on the work completed as per the contract. So that's very important, right? So very important. In fact, this is an open bidding. Like you can see, the invitation for bids open to all bidders from the eligible countries, as defined in this IBRD guidelines. And also, any materials, equipment, service to be used in the performance of the contract shall be their origin in the eligible source countries. Like, for example, if you want to quote an international project, and then like while once you get the project and you say that like I need this equipment from your country, then it's not feasible. So I should be capable of producing the equipment, the materials, and everything for the construction, no matter I do it in our country or any other country. So the contractors responsible is to bring every items together. So they have to make sure that all the materials or equipments or labors are arranged by them, right? Irrespective of the availability in the host nation or the other nation or something. And all bidders shall provide the bid and qualification information about them, their previous projects and something like that. And you can see government-owned enterprises. Like so far, we have not talked about government enterprises for bidding. In case if they are interested in bidding, and only they are legally, financially sound, they are accepted. So if government agency itself is dependent upon some other agency, then they are summarily rejected. They're not, if they have financial freedom, then they can't able to execute that. So it'll be a burden for the client or the person who invites for the bid. Right. And then so a form. This is a form of bid qualification information that in the annexure. So I'll show it at the before the end of this class. It talks about the proposed work method. Schedule. You can see the method is planning, the schedule is the construction schedule, is drawing charts. Remember our assignment number one. So if you are bidding, if you are applying, proposing bid for any construction projects, you should have a basic understanding of this. That's why I just emphasize understand work breakdown structure detailing and take a look at the scheduling in more sense, because it is not something pretty new or pretty different. It is the order of the work, right? So it's the nature of the work. Our civil engineering works requires those things, no matter a simple sewage treatment plant construction to the construction of multi-story apartment. So all those processes requires the basic stuff that we do in this particular course, especially in the module to on construction planning and scheduling. Then if the employer has of the potential bidder, all bidders shall include the following. If generally the employer will do a pre-qualification check, because they might receive, it's an open tender, they might receive thousands and thousands of bid proposal. They will open at that or during evaluation, or it may come sometimes they generally that's why they receive pre-qualification, so where in which they don't have to open proposal, but from the qualification, prior qualification of the contract, they can understand whether given a chance to them, they are able to do it or something like that. So they can filter out new, contractors or new companies that started very recently, right? Something like that. So, which means they don't have capacity to do tedious or complex tasks or something like that. And then in that case, when the pre-qualification not taken, then they should submit all the documents, something like 5 years report, and then their turnovers, and then the major items they have proposed to carry out, and something like that. And very important here is 4.4, bids from joint ventures are not accepted. Right. So this is one of the things that you should know. Like sometimes you should read the bid documents, invitation for bid documents carefully. So if you're looking for a joint venture and accomplish the task, then it is not accepted for this particular project or particular bidding. Right. So it's not necessarily what I read is not generic. It's specific to the particular work, like strengthening and relaying of road structure. So in that case, it's a government project kind of. So that is joint ventures or not. So it's not common in all the innovation programs. And then, as I told you, the bidder has to give last 5 year details, their financial year, 2 years of financial returns and turnovers, and they say minimum annual turnover of this particular thing they've just mentioned is 32.4 lakhs. So if they have a financial turnover of 32.40 lakhs, then for them doing a 16 lakh worth the targeted project may not be very difficult. But if they put for 50 lakh worth project, then their annual turnover itself is quite something like that. And then they also look into the subcontractor scope of work. Say if they wanted to go for subcontracting, what would be the nature? And in this case, they are like prime contractors, which is the general contractor. At least one similar contractor value, which is they have done like 12.96 lakhs, a whole sum value in the previous year. So that's what they mentioned. So which means doing a 16 lakh project might not be very difficult for them. And then this is a very important clause. It states that like some of the projects requires specialized machineries. If it is not available with the contractor, and if the contractor wants to hire that or something like that, so those details has to be mentioned in the bid document submitted to the employer, right? So if they don't have any of this, if they are in a capacity to render, then probably they will be taken backseat than the company which already possess these things and ready to do the construction. Just like if you have a book or something like that, and if any of your friend needs that, you can borrow them. But if you don't have, and you can find out that book from any other library, just a question mark, right? So it's not an guarantee that the availability of the book library or something like that. So those things we paid much detailed attention. Right? And you can see the tenders of the contractor who do not possess the plan specified, like these things, like in the general condition, will not be considered and will be summarily rejected, right? So this is the statement, right? So if they don't have these things, and if they still code for this or sends a bid document, and they are rejected, they will be rejected. That's why they say in the invitation to bid itself, right? So the to qualify for a package of contract made up of this and other contract for which the bids are invited in the invitation to bid. This is very important. The bidder must demonstrate having experience and resources sufficient to meet the aggregate of the qualification criteria. Right. So in some case, if you don't have, but you can readily bring it. There isn't any delay. There isn't any probability of bringing it. Then this is something to be considered. And some subcontractors' experience and resources. Like in case you go for a subcontract stuff, then that also gets applicable. Like 5 year data of the subcontractor and cost to transfer data and turnovers will also be viewed. What happens if the subcontractor becomes insolvent and bankrupt? Then the prime contractor also will face a difficulty in terminating the project, or the project does not move, or the completion does not happen. So it'll be a very big issue. And that's why they look into subcontractors' experiences in case you are going for subcontracting. That is why people prefer L&T, because they have ECC, engineering, construction, and contract. So they can do all that processes in a single company itself. So that's the one key feature. They have their own equipments, they have their own design field, they have their own planning division. So given to them, it's like giving complete handover so that they finish it in time. But if you give it to the second tier companies, they may not have equipment, they hire the equipment, or they may not have a planning division. They might go with the help, or they associate with some project management consultants or consultancy. So in that case, the guarantee, but then we cannot say that they cannot able to do. But it's something like an iota of doubt will be there in the mind of the employer. It is not that they are not self-sufficient, but they have to prove that they are self-sufficient. They have to do the project. And this is very important. Take a look at this. This is kind of a formula. It is not an universal formula. It's only for this project. They say how do they assess the bid capacity, or the amount in which the contract is done, or something like that. So they take A into N into 1.5 minus B. So A is the maximum value of the road work executed in last 1 year during the 5 years or something like that. And then N is the number of years prescribed for the completion of the work. So in this case is 0.5, which is 5 year. And then B is the value or the price level of existing commitment and ongoing work somewhere, like if it is going, then that particular price. And say that factor A into N multiplied by 1.5, the whole multiplied by B. As a whole subtracted from B, right? So that's basically the quality, I mean the amount prescribed. It's not a rough calculation. Sometimes if it is say 20 lakhs, then we can quote 18 lakhs or even 21 lakhs, but provided with a justification for 21 lakhs, why it is more than 20 lakhs, somewhere. Right? So those things are very important thing. And the bidders have to meet the qualification criteria. This is very much important thing. Before we getting the qualification criteria, let's take a look at the disqualification nature. Like for example, what happens when the bidder is disqualified, right? The bid proposal is rejected. One is giving a misleading or false information. The next is the record of poor performance in the previous work, or they abandoned between in the previous project or in many projects they take. So in that case, they are blacklisted. So litigation history has to be taken care. And financial failure, like what is the financial stability of that particular contractor to take up that project? All those things has to be considered. If they are like in the other side, not acceptable criteria, then their bids are rejected. And also very important thing is uh, they are very ambitious. The contractors are very ambitious. They take up, they consider bidding of many other projects, but they are not, fail to take up the project. So even though they get the bidding, they win the bid, but also if they fail to take up, then that is also a rational justification that an employer can give to reject the contractor, because the same situation can happen to this project also. They might win, but then they don't take up the contract, and there will be a burden for the employer or the client. When we talk about one bid for this, like there is a factor called cartel, in which it's an economic concepts in which one to price one or to make the bid or one company can take up a project by compromising the bid of the other companies by themselves, right? Say, for example, if a particular contractor quotes for 60 lakhs, 60, and some people quotes for more than 60 lakhs, like 80 lakhs, 91 lakh, 1 crore, 20 lakhs or something. So naturally, the 60 lakhs gets the contract, but that's not a correct practice. So the 60 lakh guy influenced the other companies to quote for the higher bids. So those things are called cartel. That's why people now look into one bid per bidder. Like for example, in earlier case, if ABC company there, like A gets the contract and B and C gets compromised. And in next case, B gets a contract when A and C gets compromised, and C gets the contract and A and B gets compromised. Something like that. So those things, are called cartels, but that should be avoided. That's an illegal practice, and that is very similar to hoarding. Like when you hoard materials, or say for example the daily vegetables, and allow the price to rise up, and then when you sell those hoarded items for higher price. So that's an illegal term, illegal practice, and this is something pretty much like it. That's why people look into one bid per bidder. So which means that they can only give once this bidding, and if they don't get it, they'll be listed down as like not successful bidders, and then that will affect their future bid submission to other projects as well. And then cost of bidding and other related stuff like that. Site visit. This is a very important thing that you should know. Before even sending bid, the bidder or the person who's interested in bidding can request the employer to have a site visit. So without visiting the site, it will be very difficult to quote for a project. Say, for example, the water table of the particular area is pretty high, or there's an existing water bodies nearby. So without the knowledge of that, like if a person quotes, then they will be in a loss. Say, for example, when they dig, the water can percolate, and you have to do a dewatering process, which may not be quoted in the earlier instances, right? So those things can be detrimental. So that's why. And then you only given a plan layout in the invitation to bid of a particular location, but you not be given the size of the streets or the area when which how we can transport materials. So if it is in congested environment, then transporting a huge numbers will be very detrimental. So all those things can be planned only if you have clear cut knowledge about the existing or the real time scenario. right? So that's why people generally prefer site visit before proposing the project. And then this is very important. We have completed section A. Let's dive in section B, which is the bidding document. It's one of the important features in the invitation to bids, right? So the first is the content of the bid document, right? So section B, bidding documents includes instructions to bidders and form of bid and qualification information, then conditions of contract, then contract data, specifications and drawings, and bill of quantities. They generally refer this as BOQ, and forms of securities. This is like financial securities or performance securities or bid securities, right? So all those things can be discussed here. First is clarifications of bidding documents, right? If a bidder needs to have a much understanding of the bid, or they have a doubt or query in their mind after reading the invitation of bid, they can notify the employer in writing or in facsimile or something. Nowadays is email. This is a very old document, say in 2001 or 2000. Now people looks into email. That's the fastest mode of communication and very authentic also. And they can notify that, and within 15 days, prior to the deadline, they have to get request and get the details. And then amendments of bidding document. Let's say, for example, before the deadline, uh, when the bidder submits the document, but unknowingly he has mentioned something erroneously, or something he has unintentionally mentioned it wrong. So in that case, he will be given a chance to correct that, and that is what we call amendment. So that is before the evaluation, bid submission, right? So before the deadline of the bid submission, not the bid submission, but the deadline of the bid submission. Then very important thing is preparation of bids. Generally, it is in English language. Most of the national competitive bidding across borders and states, because they don't have unified language among India. So it is English. Other than that, they might specify in Hindi, but not in many cases. The English is just preferred all over the country. And then if it is a regional contract, then they can give bidding in the regional languages. Say for example, even though you can see this is in Tamil Nadu, they have not given this in Tamil. They have only given in English, so that like the person who does not know, the company who does not have access to Tamil typing or something, or knowledge about Tamil language, they can read in English itself. Like English becomes a de facto standard now for the documentation purposes and all, right? And the documents comprising the following: the first is the bid security, and price, bill of quantities. And bill of quantities, just like item gets segregated, just like a work breakdown for materials, right? But prices with price tag associated with that. What is the quantum of earthwork materials, or a hiring charge for the equipment or something like that in terms of price? And then qualification information and form and documents, something like that. So bid price, we have seen that earlier, and very important thing that you should know that is in bid document, you have to give the price in both in terms of numbers as well as in terms of words. Say for example, uh, if you give 15 FIFT in 15, it's 1 5. So supposing 1 5 just looks like 6, then people might mistake it as 16. So in that case, they have to look into the corresponding wording. Then they understand, oh, it's 15. Sometimes there might be a typo error. So in that case, generally the words govern, because numbers can be typed wrongly, but words cannot be typed wrongly. Say for example, 6 and 7 cannot be typed, wrongly, but in terms of words, but it can be interpreted wrongly in terms of numbers. Say 6 and 9, or 0 and 8. So something can go wrong, right? So words really governs in that case. And they also look into currencies. Like since it's a national competitive bidding, it's bidding a bid document comprises a BOQ with rupees intact, with the based on the priced rupees, right? priced items in rupees. And then also they look into the taxes and other payables to the contractors and something like that. And bid validity is very important. This particular bid, so only for this particular bid, valid for a period not less than 90 days after the deadline for bid submission, right? So after 90 days, till 90 days after the submission of your bid deadline, I mean the deadline for submission of your bid is valid. So that's the bid validity period. So 90 days is 3 months, right? So by the 3 months, you can withdraw the bid by requesting the employer, or you cannot make amendments, but instead you can, the employers need some time to evaluate that and formulate procedures, guidelines for evaluation, and also to find out the third party to evaluate. Sometimes the bidder can request for extension of the deadline also, but it's very rare in case like the pandemic period now, like say if it is an sealed tender and it does not reach postal department is off, something like that, then that time they can request the employer to extend something like that. Or sometimes the bid employer offer it might went like unexpected holiday. Say the they have closed down the unit for 1 or 2 days or something like that. In that case, the next working day will be the final deadline for the submission deadline. Let's say, for example, today, 23rd February. If it's a holiday or unexpected, the company has the next working day, so 24th February, will become the deadline, but the time remains the same. If it is 5 p.m. on 24th, it's 5 p.m. 24th. And price shall be increased by the factor B. Say, for example, during the bidding, the price escalation may not be there, but during the course of evaluation, if there is escalation in terms of price, then a maximum of 4% per annum is given. This is predominantly available for construction projects because of the increase in the price of the building materials. Like they generally go for a factor B, which is 4% per annum. Like if it is 100 rupees and 4% of 100 rupees, 4 rupee, and that gets increased in terms of the price or quoted price. All right, so next we'll take a look at the bid security. It is just the amount bank guarantee issued by National Distributed Bank for the contractor, to take up this particular project. Right? Bank guarantee is issued as surety, and it's valid for 45 days beyond the validity of the bid. So 90 plus 45 will be the bid guarantee period. And any bid not accompanied by any acceptable bid security is rejected. As simple as that. And that is considered as non-responsive. Right? So in the invitation to bid, they mentioned clearly that they should have, valid bid. So the bid security of the unsuccessful bids will be returned within 28 days of the bid validity period. And successful bidders will be discharged, and they have to sign in the agreement, because if you get the contract, you have to sign an agreement, and then you have to pay performance security. For the bid security gets elapsed, and you have to pay something called an performance security. Right. So the bid security may be fortified. The bidder withdraws the bid after the bid opening, and during the bid validity, if he withdraws the bid, so they don't get anything. If the bidder does not accept the correction of the bid price, say for example, the contract price and withdraw it with forcefully, they withdraw the 45 is not given. And then in the case of the bidder, you get to sign the contract or for not for its and then that case also the bid security. So that's the cost employer can hold till they do the contract. And alternative proposal by bidders, like bidders, if they have got other other proposal or recommendation, they can even give it in form of writing to the employer, and it's mutually accepted or rejected. Right. And there should be two copies. One is the original copy and photocopy or the generally called as a copy for the bidding evaluation, and one will be with the employer and one will be the evaluation team, and then they have to mark the one and copy the other one with the details like the inner envelope and outer envelope for the details. This is for the employer and so on. So, and this is for the identification of them, like the name of the contract, and contractor number, and you can mention like you're not open. It's a sealed tender, right? Sealed tender. And deadline for submission, as mentioned in the 15 hours time, 1/11/2008. And then late bids, like a bid received after the deadline will be rejected, and also it will be rejected after. Don't even open the return the package to the sender, right? So that's what basically the late bid means. And the modifications of bids also in the form of writing, and there's a form called clause 18. So you can write this modification or withdrawal depending on the institution and condition. Right. So this is basically a very important thing. In the next lecture, we'll be taking a look at bid opening and evaluation. It's a very one of the important aspects of the tendering process. Right. So that comes to end of today's lecture.